I was born here, indeed, during the war. And I remember, as a very little child, bombing of Eindhoven, the bomb shells. We had to shelter in the southern part of Eindhoven at night when the planes came over. So you now know how old I am. But you cannot tell by my white hair, because I've been white all my life. And people ask me all the time, how can you have done this work for so long? 40 years. 40 years telling about the apocalypse, the world going under. How can you do that for so long? Well, I'm going to tell you that still, today, I'm an optimist. But the story I'm going to tell you is terrible. But I told the management here, organize a help desk for those who get depressed. And it's over there. Is it, Monique? It's over there. Because the story is terrible. And it started largely here in Eindhoven. This is me. See the guy who tries to row the other way? If you want to find the source, you have to swim against the current. But this is also what we in the Club of Rome believe is what the world is all about. The predicament of mankind, the fate of humankind. This is us where we are. Same sort of boat is the boat that is currently being, can be deployed as the symbol of our economy. We have our cabinet here, and they believe that somewhere out there is the GDP, the gross national product, and it has to recover. We have to go back to 3% economic growth. And we ignore all the peaks of the iceberg underwater. We don't want to hear it, especially in the Netherlands. We used to be an enormous pioneer in the field of sustainability. And as Maarten Steinboes said, we used to be the #1 country in wind turbines. I myself went to a company called Fokker Airplanes. They were losing their ground. We told them, you're absolutely great in propeller technology. This is your future. And they throwed us out of the window almost, because they said, come on, there's enough oil and gas. There's coal, there's nuclear power. You are idiots. Remember Don Quixote? Remember him? He was an idiot. You're idiots. And by the way, today, if I meet with bankers in this country, they tell, you had it all wrong, the Club of Rome. Tomorrow, I'm in a meeting in the Bundeskanzlerei in Berlin, where she invited 250 people from all around the world to talk about this story. That's not what they're doing here. It's not what they're doing in the White House. And I tell you how scary it is. In 1972, we have published Limits to Growth. And it got world famous. This report sold 13 million copies in 52 languages. 800,000 articles have been published. I myself have given 3,000 lectures on the subject. This is 3001. Dennis Meadows, the author, the main author, did 6,000. What it tells you is that if you do the math of world development, past data, build them into a model full of feedbacks, stocks and flows, all of that. Typical engineering, isn't it? Yes. Remember? Exactly the same technology. Developed in those days, believe it or not, at the Pentagon, the model. And this is what it told us in 1972. Between 1900, I thought I had done 12 minutes, but it's 12 minutes left. Okay. Between 1900 and the end of the century, this is what world development will look like. If you combine stocks and flows, how much is there in resources? Protein, food production. How much is there? How much do we consume? And the big mistake everybody makes is that we don't know how to do the math, the mathematics. The mathematics is about exponentiality, which means that if you grow at about 3% annually, you double your system in 22 years. But if you grow like in China, 9% annually, you double your system in just a few years. So twice as many cars, refineries, ships, airplanes, double, double, double. It's 2, 4, 8, 16, 32, 64. That's exponential growth. And if you realize that, then you know that today's world, with all that growth, is not the same one as compared to tomorrow's world. And what happens, the update in 2004, if we insert the newest data, if we do that, so all the resources, we count them again, we add up, we distract, we take care of all resource efficiency measures, all the things that have been done, technology, progress, as our young friends with a solar car around the world. Thanks to you, there's ingenuity. If we insert that, then still the graphs look very much the same. And throughout the world, two reactions do occur. One is, it's all stupid. It's all nonsense, because technology will find the answer if we only grow. If there's only cooperation, collaboration, if everybody is is good willing. So if paradise were there, if we had no wars, then we would overcome this. And the other one is, we are very well on track. And I show you the next one. This is the famous climate hockey stick. And this has been disputed in a way which is so absurd, because it can be compared to the following. If there is, for instance, on television, a program on diseases, cancer, there's a specialist telling the media, telling the audience, this is the problem, these are the causes, it has to do with viruses and all that. Then, for some reason, they don't invite a Yomanda for a counter-opinion. They don't. But with climate science, they do. So here's one opinion. Let's listen to the idiot as well. And then in the middle somewhere, there we, in a certain way, there is the appearance, the glory of the truth. It has to be idiot-proof. What it tells you, of course, is that the connection between CO2 concentrations and temperature throughout the last 600,000 years show a fantastic parallel. Why do we have these oscillations? Because there were volcanoes, the axis of the planet did turn, and therefore we had all the oscillations. But now we are here. This is the beginning of the industrial production of fossil fuels. We dig out all the coal and all the oil and the gas from far underneath. It's been stored there for millions of years. We release it into the atmosphere where it cannot escape. And therefore, the concentration is now at 400 ppm, and the red dot shows where it goes to by the middle of the century. BAU means business as usual. So definitely it will go up. And I will show you later that we are on track for +4. +2 is impossible already to achieve. We're going for +4 and worse than that. And tomorrow in Berlin, the latest data will be shown, and they have to do with the possibility that by the end of this century, the Sahara will blow through the streets of London. Just in case you got depressed. And here's the indication, what it leads to. This was released only a while ago by the Potsdam Climate Institute, the leader of which, John Schnellhuber, went to see the Pentagon and NATO, and they listened carefully, because they're in the business of risk management. They're the best. They listen. But The Hague, of course, is a place where people don't listen. Although we have a former Green leader as a leader of the Socialist Party, they ignore the fact. They keep saying that wind turbines don't function. They did function for the last 5,000 years, but not in the Netherlands. And these are the summer temperatures between the equator, the 0 parallel, and the 50th parallel, south and north. And if you do the mathematics for the century to come, then we move to not to +4 and +6, +12. But it means that very soon the planet begins to burn. And I must confess that for the first time in my 40 years of messages, when I saw these figures a while ago in Freiburg, I thought of my grandchildren, and I got depressed. You know this one? Everybody? Yeah? Pieter de Breugel, the elder, did this painting in the late 16th century of the Tower of Babel. It is exposed in the Art Museum in Vienna. It's one of the most illuminating, beautiful pieces of art in the world, because it tells you that 4,000 years ago, that's how old the story is, 4,000 years ago, the Tower of Babel did represent the limits to growth. And it's a metaphor of the real story, which I will tell you very rapidly. You see, this tower was built. Why? Because the king down here, he believed that he was equal to God, and he wanted to reach out to the throne of God. Therefore, he needed the tower. And while building, 100 years later, the tower was at this height, and it didn't continue to grow. It didn't work out. All the cargo coming in here had to come from ever greater distances. And the trouble was that continuing the building was impossible because on the way, repairs were necessary. The tower began to crumble. That's how the world economy functions. Look, there he is, full of self-indulgence. I'm equal to God. It reminds us of Wall Street. It reminds us of the kings of today. It reminds us of those who believe that they can build towers without recognizing that the planet is full of limitations. But down here is the university, the School of Economics, and they still count all the resources, the cargo, entering the staircases as growth. This is a teaching of the London School of Economic Nonsense, the Harvard School of Economic Destruction, the Rotterdam School of Economics lies. The free market will solve it all. Well, I can assure you, the free market never existed. There's a free market perhaps in women abuse, human rights, endangered species, weapons. But even there, if you try in that so-called free market to start your own business, it won't work, because out there are other control mechanisms, not laws, but guns and crime. There is no free market, and it will not solve it. And paintings, thousands of them have been done. Thousands of pages have been written about the metaphor of the Tower of Babel as the most important message to humanity, that we are on the wrong path. Look at this. Fossil subsidies annually, 550,000 billion. Look at this. Ecosystems losses, 1,000 to 2,000 billion every year. And every year we delay measures, it will cost us an extra 500 billion, which means that if here, and I sometimes have an audience like that, there's the CEO of this company, you are of the other one, you're with the other CEO, and I tell you, over the last 50 years, you never made a dime. You privatized the profits, you socialized the cost, you never made a dime. Your balances every year, it's a lie. And look at this. Resource efficiency. You're talking about resource efficiency, your innovation. That's also what you're doing here in Eindhoven. Resource efficiency is horrible. McKinsey, most established company of the free market ideologists, they calculated that these are the costs. If only we would start to analyze and repair the stupidity here, we would win the war against climate change. Look at that. That's how it ends. But here's the real end. This is what they believe is the answer. This tower in Dubai, 800 meters high, will be exceeded now by a new tower in Azerbaijan, in Baku. That one will be a kilometer high. So in those countries where they burn oil, dig up the oil and burn it, they build towers as if Babylon never existed, although that was just a few miles away from there. And they are the ones whose countries will disappear first. That is the irony. Now, the last message is, of course, apart from the help desk over there, why haven't I given up? Because of these young generations. Because of people, many of you here. Because of all those who are inventive. And the message is that from today on, you will not go home with the old story. That's my message for you. Thank you.